do is win. Hey guys, good afternoon. This is Tony Thompson from NAMBA. Thank you for joining today's webinar. It's currently 2:01 Eastern time. We're going to give it about a minute or so and we will get started. But for those who are joining us today, if you can simply send me via a chat function or raise your hand to let me know that you can hear and see me on the screen just for a technical test, that would be great. Andreas, did we get anyone? Did I get a hand raise or anything?
Yep, we did, Tony.
Okay, great. I just wanted to make sure I couldn't see that. So I just want to make sure. Okay, first of all, we're going to jump right into this. Good afternoon, everyone. For those who I have not had the opportunity to meet, my name is Tony Thompson. I'm the founder and CEO of NAMBA. I want to thank you for joining us today. We got a really exciting webinar packed with a lot of great information. This webinar is going to have so much information that we are actually recording it for you today. You will receive a copy within the next 24 hours. And also, we want to thank everyone who is joining us live on Facebook as well for Social Impact Lending, the new frontier for lenders. I tell you what, if you're a lender or originator in today's market, we know that everything happens in cycles, but now more than ever, data, insights, and demographics are really important to go out and help grow purchase originations. And so today, we're going to really talk about the evolution of where we're headed from a lending philosophy standpoint. Social impact lending, what is it? What does it mean? But before we get started, let's talk about something that we're on a countdown to. That is Connect 2022. It is the industry's largest gathering of mortgage and real estate professionals in the country to celebrate one thing: excellence. Our goal this year, September the 15th to 17th at the JW Marriott for NAMBA Connect. I want to invite each of you to join us. We've got 2.5 days of great training, great resources, great partners, vendors, and all in a focus area to do one thing: help support and promote diversity and inclusion in our industry, but most importantly, to help mortgage and real estate practitioners, along with other practitioners, whether you're in HR, whether you're in marketing, whether you're in compliance, or you're a CEO of an organization. NAMBA Connect is your go-to conference to connect with the entire ecosystem within the real estate community and lending community. I'm excited to announce we have some of our keynote speakers, Sandra Thompson, who's the current director for FHFA, who's over Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, as well as we have the head of the CFPB Enforcement Division attending, and a host of other great sessions and 6 different training tracks. So whether you're in sales, ops, real estate, marketing, HR, NAMBA Connect has a training track for 2.5 days of great content, great resources, great information to help you elevate your career and also to help you elevate your company's performance. To learn more, simply go to namba.org and you'll see the entire list of speakers, as well as you can register. Heads up, we're about 20% left on rooms. So we think we're going to end up selling out this beautiful hotel here in the next 3 weeks. So certainly if you're thinking about coming to the conference, just understand we're just about at capacity for this particular hotel with some phenomenal rates and a brand new 5-star JW. So again, welcome to today's webinar, guys. Social Impact Lenders, the new frontier for lenders. Last 3 years has been a great industry, great environment. If you're an originator or a real estate company, let's talk about the future, where we're headed, not just for the second half of 2022, but most importantly, the next 2 to 3 years in our industry. And so our goal today is really to help you understand ways that your organization and as a lender understand data and how that can play a role in helping you to grow purchase originations in the multicultural marketplace. So today we're going to create and talk about the business case of social impact lending. What is this new thing you're calling social impact lending, Tony? And then third, what are the benefits? And last but not least, some best practices that if you're a lender or an originator, things that you can do to begin to really connect and engage and understand this new trend, but also the new model of how lenders will need to do business as they move forward. First and foremost, let's talk about it is what it is. Today, now more than ever, multicultural market. The opportunity for many lenders and many originators is a gigantic, enormous marketplace for the multicultural marketplace. Now, why do you say that? Numbers don't lie. At NAMBLA, we always like to talk about the data because ultimately that's where we focus on, is helping everyone to understand here's what the data is saying and how do you build a business plan, whether you're an originator, whether you're a marketing executive, whether you're a CEO for your company based on data. Did you know at the end of the day, for the last 4 years, all new net population of household growth is being represented by communities of colors, Asian, Latino, African-American, Native American. 77% of new households that will be formed will come from diverse households, multiracial households, as well as the LGBT community. In fact, 3 out of 4 loans that were closed last year, according to HMDA, were either a female, a person of color, or a millennial. But most importantly, I like to talk about this number here. Over the next 5 years, the multicultural marketplace opportunity for purchase transactions represents 2.9 trillion in opportunity. So let me say that again. In the next 5 years, if you're an originator or a lender, the opportunity to grow purchase market share in the multicultural marketplace, $2.9 trillion opportunity. Today, we're going to talk about how to tap in and connect and get your fair share of this huge, high growth, high potential market. Third, it's important to understand that while a lot of talk is around the African-American home ownership rate, the Latino home ownership rate, and even the home ownership rate for millennials, one of the things that I like to do when we're looking at numbers is also kind of help lenders and originators and our partners understand that these opportunities, numbers represent opportunities. So for example, the African-American home ownership rate is currently 44%. If I were to tell you as an originator that there is a 56% market opportunity in your local market today, is that a market that you'd be interested in? Most lenders will raise their hands, most originators, most real estate agents, absolutely, Tony, show me where I want to go there. If I were to say, hey, there's a 52%, 53% market opportunity of untapped business in your local community today, is that something you'd be interested in? Absolutely. Again, Tony, where is that? Show me, point me in the right direction. I'm headed there. That's where we are with the African-American, with the Latino, Hispanic borrowers. There's a huge opportunities for lenders, and not just those borrowers, but certainly all multicultural markets, for lenders to understand those and not look at them as where they are today, but really flip that number upside down and say, this is our opportunity. And as the great Wayne Gretzky, a hockey player, for those who may not know Wayne, when he was retiring, people said, Wayne, what was the fundamental reason when you look back over your career that you were successful? And his comment was really simple. He said, I skate to where the puck was headed, not to where the puck is at. Today, we're thinking about where we are today in a high rate interest rate environment, margin compression, competing in terms of trying to get very few purchase loans, low inventory. But what we don't understand, guys, is this trend is where the puck is headed. And as a lender and as an originator, we want you to understand, if you start putting a plan in today, your organization will be that much further ahead. And ultimately, you'll win a lot of championships and score a lot of goals, just like Wayne Gretzky did. If not today, then when? Here are a couple of things if you're a lender to think about why you want to start today versus starting later. I like to say you want to be proactive versus reactive. First, the current regulatory environment At the end of the day, our regulators, particularly if you're an IMB, independent mortgage bank, they're going to continue to look at and say, what are your organization doing? What is your organization doing to grow home ownership in the communities that you live and operate in? And what are you doing to support diversity, equity, and inclusion in your organization? Again, this is going to continue to happen because there's a huge focus on affordable lending right now. And we have an opportunity as lenders to be proactive and to take an initiative to really drive and influence our direction rather than ultimately having to respond to that. Secondly, at the end of the day, many consumers are looking at companies and they're asking themselves, why should I do business with you? I want to do business with a company that I know that cares about me and the things that I care about. Social impact lending is tapping in and connecting to the marketplace how they want to be connected to. Lastly, I don't know about you guys, but we all know right now that the refinance activity is pretty much dried up. We don't anticipate that to return at least for the next 12 months or so. Yes, will there be some, I currently believe we'll have a little bit of interest rates going down in 2024 a little bit, at least migrating. But certainly if you built your last 3 years of business as a refinance, that is going to be very challenging as we move forward. And then last but not least, we're in that purchase environment. We're not pivoting. We're there. We've been dropped into it, but the challenge is it's a competitive environment, very few opportunities. So now at the end of the day, you got to understand the growth is going to be driven by millennials, communities of color, as well as the LGBT community. For those lenders who understand how to serve this market, who are starting to put the right plans in place, they will be able to originate more loans. They will face less regulatory scrutiny and risk. And then most importantly, at the end of the day, they will build stronger, healthier communities. I like to say they will do good by doing good, which is make money, grow profitability, grow market share, whilst also at the same time growing home ownership in the communities that they live and work in. So this chart here just kind of shows a little bit of the opportunity alongside the risk. Blue represents, so this is a home ownership chart, guys. Again, we're going to go through this and make sure you guys get this information. But blue is kind of the home ownership rates for white Caucasians in America. Red represents the minority home ownership rate. Asian is green, gray is African American, red is the orangish is Latino Hispanic home ownership rate. And if you see across different cities and across the country, up at the top, you see where the national home ownership rate is for non-minorities. And then you see each one of those corresponding territories. Just so happens the widest gap is in Minnesota, St. Paul. I'm actually headed to Minnesota next week to kick off a program for a lender that is committed to helping to close that gap. But this kind of shows you in every major market, this gap record to me represents opportunity. Now, having understand that in the mortgage industry, we tend to have a very short memory span, a very short attention span. And ultimately, at the end of the day, we tend to like to say that while this business is very cyclical, we tend to prefer to be more comfortable at doing business how we've done it for the last 100 years, which is, hey, when the market is great, everything's working, we are very smart, we're very intelligent, we're great leaders, and you know what? It's all because of our success. Nevertheless, we've been in the most ultra, conducive interest rate environment in the last 50 years that we've ever seen, thanks to the Federal Reserve. Having said that, when we do get in tighter margins and more compressed, challenging economic environments, a lot of times we forget to lean in, and we really start forgetting to think about, as a leader, how do we, as Wayne said, Wayne Gretzky, skate to where the puck is headed. And so I like to help lenders understand there's a new framework for how you need to look at the business today. The status quo is how we've done it in the past. The new paradigm are really the lenders that are really leaning in and being proactive versus reactive and saying, you know what, we know that these numbers are only going to grow. We know that the regulatory, I won't say pressure, but certainly the regulatory demands are only going to continue to become, more on a lender, whether you're IMB, community bank, credit union, et cetera. So let's look at what we're doing today as an opportunity. So first and foremost, a lot of times when you talk about multicultural lending, first and foremost, the first thing that everyone thinks about is just LMI, CRA, low bars, low income, hard credit scores, and first-time home buyer market. And really, that's not the case. Multicultural lending is, yes, first-time home buyers, is move up, seasoned, professional, dual family incomes, and then it's high net worth. Did you know, for example, that the Latino marketplace represented the fastest growing community who purchased second homes in terms of the rate of increase in 2021, according to HMDA. So what we want to do is help lenders understand the old school is looking at a market and saying, hey, there's a lot of risk, where the new school is looking at and saying, look, this is an opportunity. There's 53% opportunity in the African-American market. What products do we need to serve that market? How do we build and establish trust in that market from the Great Recession of 2008 and 2010? How do we reestablish ourselves as a high trust advisor to help move that community along the paradigm of going from rental to home ownership? Secondly, when you look at and talk about change, how do you become reactive versus proactive? Again, there are some companies, and we're partnering with them today through our ASIL program, which we'll share a little bit at the end of this webinar about, that are really taking the approach on the new paradigm to say, look, we want to be proactive versus reactive. We want to make sure that even in the midst of the change that we're having to go through, we're being intentional, we're being smart about where we have high growth, high market opportunities to really grow purchase originations for our organization. Third, the role of diversity. Diversity, 3 years ago, just keeping it simple, keeping it honest, for those who know me, everybody in the world was talking about diversity. Everybody in the world was talking about the Me Too movement. Everybody in the world was talking about how we support DE&I. Well, now companies that are truly committed to that journey, which, oh, by the way, studies have shown when you have a diverse workforce, guess what? You get more opportunity to connect and engage with that marketplace. When you have a diverse workforce, you're going to have more ideas coming to the table to help you be a better organization. When you have more diverse workforce, guess what? The productivity and the profitability of the organization is even that much better. So in today's environment, how do we look at diversity as a way to make sure that it is central to how we build and grow our organizations? Because ultimately the worlds that we live in are becoming more and more diverse. The marketplaces that you live in will become more and more diverse, with women, with millennials, with communities of color, as well as the LGBT community. And if you don't have in place a platform to support those high growth markets, then you're going to miss out on a lot of opportunity and purchase originations. From a strategy, how do we go from generic to targeted, meaning be intentional about how you connect with these audiences? I like to tell the story a lot when we work with our marketing partners at different companies or real estate firms. Just putting a African-American face or a millennial face or LGBT couple, just putting that on a picture and then having words saying, come see us, is not connecting and resonating with that audience. So it's important on how you engage, how you communicate, how you connect with each of these segments. Women, single women, again, single women, guys, are enrolling in college for the last 3 years, according to NACE, National Association of College Educations. Single women are enrolling at a rate of 2 to 1 than men. So who do we think will be buying a lot of townhomes, condos, and single family homes over the next 5 to 7 years? It's the single women. Do you have a strategy for that? Become less generic, more targeted when trying to develop plans to really reach these communities. Third, understand information now has to be moved and become more dynamic. What do you mean when you say static to dynamic, Tony? It's really simple. Information that you do today has to be in such a way where it can connect with that particular target audience. How you shape the information, how you deliver that information, and then most importantly, the content in that information. Going back again, old school versus new school. Old school, back in the day, we throw up an ad saying we're the best lender in town. We got great rates, great service, give me a call. That's very staticky. Today, new school is, look, this is why we want to do business with you, because you have a dream. We're in the business of making dreams come true. Tell us what your dream is, and we want to show you how we can help you get there. Last but not least, communication. Again, old school versus new school. One way of communicating with the customer: come see us, come call us, email us. From a communication with the borrower perspective and understanding the customer journey, which has significantly changed since the great pandemic. How consumers interact with their buying purchases, how consumers interact with their potential companies that they're looking to do business with is now more of a multi-channel approach. Hey, I want to be able to text, sell, call, see you at the end of the day. And a chat function is so much more better right now. Last week I was traveling and I was literally, as we all know, if you're doing any traveling these days, it is a little tight in terms of making connections, or if you get delayed in one airport and you've got a connecting flight in another airport. I am not, I'll admit I'm not that technology centric guy, but last week I was running late where my flight was delayed. I was going to look like I was going to miss a connecting flight at another airport. And I, for the first time ever, got on my app on my phone and I chatted through the bot function with an agent on the airline saying, hey, it's looking really tight up here. I need you to hold this flight for 5 minutes because I need to be in this different city the next day. I got a 10 a.m. keynote presentation. And boy, it would really make my day if you guys can understand that I need you to hold this flight. And sure enough, man, I got a great response back. I had a cart waiting on me when I got out the airplane to take me to a new terminal to my plane and made the plane. But man, I sat there and said, wow, this whole thing of being collaborative and talking with the customer, how they want to, and communicating with them, and recognizing there are different omni channels, I was like, I get it. And how in the future will consumers want that more? Where's your organization today in setting up that omni channel approach? And do you understand how important it is to have a different method for clients to be able to take that journey with you, how they want to take the journey versus how you want them to take the journey? So the new framework for lending, guys, again, as we go through that, is more of an opportunity to understand leveraging data, insights, and then driving those insights into action. So when you say data, Tony, what we're saying is first and foremost, you've got to quantify your opportunity in your market and most importantly, define your why. Today, more than ever, you got to have a why of saying we want to be the best rate, best lender in town, come see us, come call us. Your why has to connect with the market that you're looking to do business in. And that why has to be able to be architect in such a way that it will change from segment to segment. Now, Tony, what do you mean by that? You have to be able to communicate your why differently to an LGBT consumer than a African-American, than a Latino, than a mixed race versus a single female. So that's what we're saying, is understand how to quantify and define your why. Secondly, look at and understand in the market, where are you in terms of how do you look at your performance, particularly from a purchase transactions, because that's what we're focused on now. It's a purchase market for the next 5 years. A little bit of refis coming in, I think, down the road, but still long term, and that's what we're planning for today, guys. If you're here today on this webinar, you're planning for the long term for you and your company. And so how do you look at and say, where are we today relative to our competitors? Do we have that intel? Do we understand where we are? And then most importantly, from that, how do we prioritize what we need to do, how we need to do it to begin to move towards the action? Once you prioritize, it really is focusing on building out those strategies as well. Those strategies are going to be important. We know that nothing works the first time as planned, just like when you roll out an LOS, a loan origination software system. Everything isn't working at the end of the day on the first rollout. And that's why you roll it out in phases. That's why you also have an understanding that there are going to be some kinks. There are going to be some things that you didn't think about, that you'll get feedback from your loan originators, from your operations team, that will help make that LOS system operate better and more efficiently for your platform. And then last but not least, you got to take the action to ultimately make sure that you initiate the strategies that you identified and then pivot when you are not moving in the direction that you need to. Oftentimes when we work with partners, I tell them, let's test and fail fast. Let's do it. If it doesn't work in a controlled environment, then we move to another opportunity. But test and fail fast is one way to, again, make sure that you are constantly working on taking and looking at implementing your plans. Because again, if you have plans and you don't execute and implement them, it's no good to have a plan. Again, I just want to go back to this chart here, which kind of shows what some of that $2.9 trillion opportunity looked like. Again, if you don't do anything else, go back to your team, go back to your business plan. If you're an originator, no matter what market you're in, and say, over the next 5 years, I have a $2.9 trillion opportunity. How do I get my fair share of that $2.9 trillion opportunity? This chart just shows that every market is different. And so within that, we recognize that there are some markets that will have a higher propensity of Latino and Latinx buyers. And then there are some markets that will have a higher propensity of African-American buyers or Asian buyers. But understand within each marketplace, the ability to substantially grow purchase originations in that multicultural community is a huge high growth, higher opportunity for most lenders. In fact, all lenders in America. If someone say, Tony, who's the lender out there that's killing it across the board in multicultural lending? Let me give you out. Nobody, no one. There's not a lender that I've come across that is killing it in all segments of the multicultural. So that tells me that as an industry, as a company, we all have different opportunities to really grow in this multicultural space. Now, when we say opportunities, we also know that those opportunities are not uniform. So again, whether it's your company based on your platform, your borrower group, the channels that you originate and do business in, or the markets that you're potentially in, those markets will be different in terms of purchase opportunities within the Latino, African-American, Hispanic, and also Asian markets as well. So this chart here talks about just making sure a lot of times when we work with our partners, we help them understand through maps and visualizations. Here's where you're doing business at in this map. So if you look at to the left, it talks about there's in this particular market here, excuse me, this looks like Nashville, Tennessee. There's a 44,000 loans, 16.6 billion purchase opportunity. And then to the right, it shows African Americans in terms of 3,200 loans, almost $1 billion of the 16 billion in Nashville is opportunity. So now the question is, okay, where is that opportunity? How do we drill down in it? How do we make sure we understand who the real estate partners are that we need to perform and introduce our brand to go out and get that business? Once you do that, again, you begin to focus on target areas where this map kind of shows, okay, here are some of those loans that you're doing in Nashville as an example today. Here's the stars represents where branches are, maybe for a bank or a mortgage lender. But then when you see the circles in the orange, in yellow, those are opportunities as you look on the key. Those are opportunities where this lender is doing business in the blue, but the opportunity is in the orange and the red. So let me say that again. This particular lender is doing business in the blue, but they're missing business in this particular city, in this particular MSA. They're missing opportunities in the orange and the red, and we can quantify what those look like. That's where understanding data, insights, and then prioritizing opportunities in your market as a lender, as an originator will help you on where to focus your efforts. Because if I'm a lender, I'm going to say, well, tell me, Tony, help me understand what activities can I do where there are a bunch of red, orange, and yellow color, because that's where I'm not getting business from today. Who's in that market? What real estate companies are in there? What agents are the ones that are high producing that I need to make sure from an agent marketing standpoint, from a multicultural marketing standpoint, I can introduce my company, connect with them, and let them know that we're here to serve their clients in the communities that they live in. That's drilling down versus taking a gunshot cannonball approach, and you just want to go out and try to do business across the market because you see here where the blue is, there's already business being done. Chances are there's a lot more competition, meaning that there's a lot more margin compression because you're trying to compete for the rates. Whereas here, if you're not playing in these markets today and you can understand those markets, you can develop a plan to service those markets. At the same time, by servicing those markets, you begin to reduce your risk if you're a lender as well, in terms of making sure that you can show that you're adequately covering, intentionally covering all the markets that you live and do business in as well. So when you think about strategies and you think about, what it takes to be successful, first and foremost, you got to think about it from a sales and marketing standpoint. Do we have the right message and the right median? One of the things we do at NAMBA through Cultural Outreach, which is our multicultural marketing company, we help companies hone in on their message. Secondly, are we providing customers with the right support that they need today and in the future on how they want to engage with our company? Products and programs. Do we have a gap in our product offerings? One of the times I was talking to a CEO last week, and the CEO was saying, hey, Tony, one of the things I try to look at is I stay on top and I look at our applications by ethnicity. I look and see, how many apps we're taking with African-Americans, Latinos, Asians. And so I have a good feel of how well we're doing, every quarter based on looking at our applications in terms of what, who we're taking apps from. My question to him is, are you looking at the wrong data? You're looking at the people who came to you, but what about the people who did not come to you? Is that because you didn't have the right messaging? Is that because you didn't have the right programs or products? Maybe you didn't have the right alignment in terms of your sales team to be able to go out and engage and connect and educate. And here's the key word, build trust, where more of those segments of different ethnicities will come and do business with you. So do we need the right and more minority LOs or more women LOs or LGBTQ loan officers? Do we have those to represent the communities that we look like and that we live in? And then third and fourth is, what relationships outside of your real estate relationships from a COI, Center of Influence, what relationships do you have in your organization or really in your community that you can begin to tap into to understand where and how you can close the gap of those opportunities by partnering with community stakeholders who can help build and establish your brand as a trusted advisor to then ultimately introduce and connect you to the marketplace that you're looking to connect. Without strategy, execution is useful. And without execution, strategy is not useful. So as we close out here, guys, and by the way, we'll take a couple of questions here as we come out. And again, we'll make sure you get a copy of these slides as well over the next 24 hours. Make sure, if you're a lender, make sure that your sales team partners with community partners. Look at the relationship of your LOs and realtors and make sure that now more than ever, you are focused on servicing those communities and you understand those communities. If you're an originator and you're trying to tap into this market, ask yourself, I live in Orlando, Florida. I'm not, I don't know how to speak Spanish. I should, but I don't. Hey, I'm an originator. If I'm going to help support that marketplace, I need to build an LOA or another LO or a support team on my team that can help me support that marketplace. Secondly, identify those barriers and bridges, meaning, what are the barriers in your local market? We know that home affordability, we know that supply in terms of inventory are barriers across the country, but also from a lender perspective, are there any barriers that you're missing that will allow you to serve this marketplace better? And if so, how do we put those in place to be able to help, again, show the consumer, show our community stakeholders who will be AKA your best referral partners, your best champions, and your best ambassadors? How do we put the right resources in place within our company or within your team to be able to make those community stakeholders know and see that you're committed to serving that marketplace? And then last but not least, take action into insight. again, making sure that you compare your performance to your peers. And the only way you can do that is understand what are the data, understand how to identify originators and those high market, high growth opportunity areas that if they're not on your team today, how do you introduce them to your platform, your brand, your mission, your why to get them to be a part of your team? And then last but not least, examine the products that really at the end of the day, the marketplace is asking for, not what you think you want to give to them. So again, you want to provide a solution to the marketplace. And the solution is to understand what the needs are of your current market, of your potential clients in those markets. Tony, how do I do that? Again, one way is you start looking at your data differently in terms of instead of looking at who's taking applications with you, look at who's not and what is that saying? And then where in your marketplace in terms of potential market share opportunity that you have to be able to connect with these individuals. Set goals, develop strategies, use data, expertise to answer questions like, again, how do our application denial and origination rates compare between borrower groups to the market? How does that look relative to your competitors or your peer group? Hey, how do you compare to yourself if you're in Chicago, Illinois? How do you compare yourself to your peer group, the overall market from an IMB to the overall market for application denial and rate or origination rates? So that way, one, when the regulators come knocking, you have the ability to kind of share and say, look, we've done some analysis ourselves. Here's where we are. Here's our game plan that we're doing to move forward. Do you have the right products? It's not talked about a lot, but it should be. Underwriting. Do we have the right training? Do we have the right understanding, underwriting team that as we go out and support more of these diverse segments, more of these multicultural segments, that there has to be an understanding and an education of culture, understanding of financial literacy best practices, and also norms, cultural norms of how they do business, so that there's no unconscious bias when someone gets an application and it has 5 co-borrowers or 4 co-borrowers on that application. There's not a biases that automatically tick in that then result in the manual underwrite that becomes very, very stringent and creates a very bad experience for that family, or in this case, those 4 borrowers who are probably living together today, cohabitating, but want to own a home. We talk about the gig economy. We need to talk about the gig family as well. Do we have the right people in the right places? Are our marketing efforts falling short? And then most importantly, again, community partners. So these are some questions that you can ask yourself that will be able to help you take a look at your organization and be able to say, okay, we know our gaps. Now, how can we develop a comprehensive plan to be able to close those gaps as well? I'm going to pause for just a second, finish out with pillars of success. I would love to take any questions that anyone may have, and then we'll introduce some resources that we may have to help lenders and originators as well. So when you look at, as we close out pillars of change, guys, it says success, I call it pillars of change. The first is, as an organization, you got to have and be willing to change. Now more than ever, I tell organizations and I tell loan originators as well as leaders, lean in. This is the moment right here that if you lean into the market and understand that this market is going to continue to grow, meaning the multicultural market, purchase originations over the next 5 years. If you plan on being in business in the next 3 to 5 years, lead in and drive change, because you will have a bigger, larger return on your investment 5 years from now, 3 years from now, if you lean in and drive that change. 2, understand success is all about collaboration. So as you're looking to make this change and lean in, you got to also bring in your internal stakeholders, your employees, your key partners, your leaders, and then look at your external stakeholders as well. Collaborate with them because they're your eyes and ears on the ground. They'll tell you what you need to know. 3rd, be prepared for all complex challenges and solutions. All that means is real simple. There is not a one-stop solution to every market that you do business in, but don't be afraid to test and fail. 4th, make sure you provide the right data, tools to help your organization be successful, to be able to capture that high growth, high potential market. And then last but not least, you got to have those clear priorities set, the activities that will support those priorities, and then measure those priorities. A lot of times companies set priorities, but they don't go deep enough into the X's and O's. And we're in a purchase environment today, guys. It's not raining loans. So X's and O's are very, very critical to really companies being successful, and then ultimately measuring that success so that as we travel along the way, we know that we're making progress. So let's pause for a moment. Any questions from anyone? Try to see if we come. If so, feel free to shoot those through the chat function. If not, just wanted to finish out with a couple of things. One, there are some risks for lenders that you need to think about. One, there's a more focus on oversight from the regulators. Again, we don't see that subsiding. We see that increasing, if anything. Two, consumer advocacy trade groups. They are being more and more vocal on what are lenders doing to ultimately help grow home ownership in communities across the country. Third, more and more, every piece of the consumer process is being opened up to more and more litigation. And then last but not least, the great resignation, the great reshuffle is going to continue not only into 2022, but into 2023 as well, from our lens, from what we hear when we talk to professionals across the industry, across multiple industries, and then most importantly, when we talk to companies in terms of their need to find great talent. So how do you make sure that every employee in your organization that you want to keep and that's valued, that you can attract and retain the best and brightest in the industry, because that's how you will be able to win as well. Speaking of winning, at NAMBA, we developed a platform and a program to help companies create and gain a competitive edge. It's called ACEL certification. So I'll just spend a minute or two just to give you a high-level overview of the ACEL certification. Essentially what it is the new JD Power for social impact. So you heard me talk about social impact early on, the next frontier, the new frontier for lenders. Think of the ACEL as the JD Power for social impact. And what we have done is create a industry-leading certification that will be recognized amongst the real estate community, or the lender community, with the regulators, and as well as multicultural employees. That if you're an ACEL company, this is a great company to work for. This is a company that's committed to doing good by doing good. Again, Tony, what does that mean? It's a company that's committed to helping to grow home ownership across all the segments of the marketplace that they live and do business in, while also supporting diversity, equity, and inclusion in their organization to attract and retain the best and the brightest. And so not only will having the ACEL certification help you do good, but the whole goal is to create and execute a purchase origination strategy to grow market share and profitability. And in this day and time and importance, market share growth, profitability are obviously two key levers that are important to any growing successful organization in today's environment. The ACEL certification is a year-long process that we come by and work with an organization, primarily broken into 4 different areas. It's 10 assessments, and after each assessment we do each month, we come back and identify, here are your gaps, here's where you're doing great, here are some best practices and benchmarking, and then here are some action plans to close that gap or actually improve your gap relative to your peers and your competitors in that local market. So out of those 10 assessments, primarily they're broken down into 4 areas: HR, human capital. So how to recruit and retain the best. Do you have the right DE&I programs? How does your comp plans stack up to the marketplace, particularly in an ever-changing environment? And then ultimately making sure that we've got the right focus of cultural competency. We call that diversity training in our organization for your organization. Marketing. How does your website, your brand, your assets look to, hey, if I'm a person of a consumer, multicultural consumer, can I see myself doing business with you? Am I a multicultural referral source? Can I see myself referring clients to you? And then lastly, if I'm a multicultural employee, can I see myself working at your organization? Profitability, It's really simple. We want to make sure, obviously, every company right now is focused on profitability and making money. And the ACEL program identifies purchase origination opportunities in the multicultural market to help you grow revenue and market share and profitability for the organization. And then from a social impact standpoint, we're making sure how you understand how your organization stack ranks and compares from a fair lending, from a product profile, from a lending profile relative to your peer group, i.e. we're an IMB, we're going to compare to IMBs. We're a real estate owned company, we're going to compare to real estate owned. And then we're going to see the benchmark for where are, top companies in this area based on our products, our market. And so that's the social impact. When you roll all of that up, you now have a great tool, a great resources to attract great talent, benchmarking data, a regulated playbook, and then most importantly, access to proprietary information and resources, tools and resources to help your organization grow market share and profitability as well. So it's been a quick 47 minutes. We're doing really great. Want to invite you guys to connect with me. If you have any questions about what you've seen today, I'm going to pause for a second. I would love to get any thoughts, any questions on any of the data we shared today. Feel free to send me a chat and we'll try to answer those really quick for you. In the meantime, my information is on the screen for you to, certainly connect. Would love for you to connect with me as well. Let's see. Andreas, do you see any questions come through?
Not at the moment, Tony.
Wow. Well, guys, again, I want to thank you for taking time out today. Here's what I want to close on. The market is going to be challenging, but the market has a tremendous amount of opportunity as well. And so from that, we want to make sure that you have and understand where the puck is headed so that ultimately you can help your company grow, or as an originator, you can grow as well. Talk more about the ACEL certification. So again, the ACEL certification is the new industry standard for companies to be able to ultimately show the regulators that they have a comprehensive go-to-market strategy to support multicultural growth. What it's also meant to do is not just have a strategy, but it's really meant to execute in those local markets to intentionally grow and move the dial for that company for multicultural lending. So we come in and we work with the organization for a year through the entire NAMBA family of companies, bringing our platform, our resources, our subject expertise in recruiting and multicultural marketing and data and analytics and reports and benchmarking. We bring all of that to the company and then create a customized plan for them, their employees, their marketing, their talent acquisition team to make their organization all-inclusive, to make their organization better, and most importantly, to help their organization grow in these multicultural markets. And again, to learn more about that, you can also just send me an email at tony.thompson@namba.org, or you can go to namba.org as well. Great question. Let's see here. Any more? Looks like one more just came through. In order to have access to the ACEL certification, do I have to be a member of NAMBA? Great question. So obviously we are promoting the best places to work. Got my NAMBA shirt on today. But as part of the ACEL certification, a NAMBA partnership for all of your employees are included in that, because our goal is we want to help you win. We want to help you win in every market. We want to help your employees grow and develop and know that they're at a company that is really caring about them, and ultimately in the top 5% of lenders will have this ACEL certification. So not every company will be able to say that they have an ACEL, but for those who do, our commitment is to help create a great culture internally, as well as to help create a great strategy externally for you to be able to go out and grow the business. Great question. Again, guys, I want to thank you for your time. You will get a copy of today's presentation in the next 24 hours. And if you or your organization would love to learn more about how to leverage data as a competitive advantage and about the ASA program, feel free again to connect with me at tony.thompson@namba.org. We're getting ready. It looks like one more just snuck in here. Great. All right. Well, guys, this concludes our presentation. Thank you for your time. Have a great day, and we hope to see you in September at our national conference in Orlando, Florida. This concludes our presentation.